Oh, what is going on, guys? Hockey Guy 1 here. Welcome to my review of Raya and the Last Dragon. Raya and the Last Dragon is directed by Don Hall and Carlos Lopez Estrada and stars Kelly Marie Tran, Awkwafina Wong, Gemma Chan, Daniel Day Kim, and Benedict Wong. The story is basically about Commandro, which is like this whole place ends up splitting in half after Sisu can like saves it with this orb, and basically there's Chief Bender who just really is trying to get it back together and is trying to train his daughter Raya to kind of protect the orb, but she does mistakenly trust Namari, who ends up kind of calling in everyone, and that kind of causes the orb to completely split into pieces, which causes the dream to come back and reappear because the orb isn't holding them back anymore, and basically it ends up kind of like turning Benja to stone, and basically there's 6 years later, basically Raya tries to collect all the orb pieces back together so you can put them back together and reunite Kamandra for her father. So the story is very good. It goes on like these 5 like kind of like orb pieces from each city that basically Raya has to like collect, and it's kind of like more of a journey to a movie, and I do like how they can keep it engaging most of the time, and especially since there is like a deeper message behind it of unity, and how like when they kind of trust each other they do better, and I think they end up delivering that message really well in this movie, and it's definitely like a message that can like really bring you in on a life as they kind of like can teach you, and then you kind of need to trust more people. I think that they deliver it well with each other as basically how, and they kind of like has everyone trust each other and ends up working, yeah. And so I think they deliver the message really well in that case, as it just really kind of shows what exactly trusting someone can do, and you know, it can like reunite the entirety of people, and it's just really is a good message to send under the story, and as they keep the story kind of engaging, and it's delivered really well. The structure is really good. You got the first act, which does start with like Raya kind of like narrating over the story, kind of like explaining like right away what the world is like. I mean, kind of like saying how Sisu kind of like tried to like stop Sisu, and basically ended up like causing it to like divide a bit because of how the humans don't really like each other, and it kind of like caused it to divide. It's a really good way to like really introduce you to our world. Just really immediately starts into the world and explains exactly how the world is as it is, and then it kind of like gets into modern time, or it kind of like gets into Raya's story. It introduces you, it shows Ben kind of like training Raya into like this whole thing to protect the orb, and basically it kind of like shows the whole tribe meeting where she kind of meets Namari, who was very similar, so ends up kind of like showing her own orb, but obviously ends up trusting the wrong person at that time, as they called everybody in. It splits and it basically the dream basically escapes now, because obviously the orb is not can even complete it, so it kind of like a bit breaks you into the second act with the dream like kind of escaping a bit. It's just a really good way to kind of introduce you to it, as basically it shows Benja and he kind of sacrifice himself for Raya as it throws down. It's a good way to like really kick off the movie, just really kind of like use it to really show like the stakes in the movie right away, and just introducing you to exactly what our characters are going to face right away. And it does really kind of get you into the second act right away. It kind of like shows 6 years later, Raya's looking for Sisu, but kind of help her with the whole thing of reuniting Commander and like getting back all the orb pieces, and does eventually get her back, and it does do a pretty good job with that. I mean, it does show how it kind of like does it, and exactly like expands on exactly how she kind of like calls Matt kind of to do a good job with that bit, and definitely does go right after that, like showing her grab the gem piece from Tell as she's there. Basically, it causes the whole thing to like have Sisu the shapeshift and I don't like disguise herself as a human, basically. And then they do a good job, kind of like showing Namari and obviously you already know that she's not really good person, but then they kind of like show right here as a good way, like chasing Raya, just really kind of like showing how she's definitely gonna be more like a villain in this modern time, even and definitely does like chase Raya down, and then as she does end up having to escape and then get to Boon, basically this like young kid who like lost all his family members to Drone, and they do a good job kind of like doing that, like really just introduce more to exactly more problems that our character's gonna have in a way, and it's like kind of a good way how they progress the story more and as it goes here in the second act. Then they kind of like got to the thing where they go to town and move the plot a bit. And it's kind of like introduces these babies and the August bit there, and then there's also how she like wanted to keep Sisu in there because that's where she felt she'd be safe. But obviously, like she does, and then it kind of gets to it a bit. Like they think she thinks the gifts would work, but obviously like this chief, there's a whole town there obviously did not accept those gifts and almost like puts Sisu in danger until old Raya ends up saving her, and it's just a really good way to kind of like progress the plot, really kind of bring into problems and kind of like more intensely a bit, and kind of like she's saying, and then it's a good way to really move the plot along a bit. It does really kind of work a bit how it does that, and just really kind of keeps you more engaged into it and as the plot goes along. And it kind of like shows a movie in the Spine where they kind of like meet up with Tong, who's like the last remaining member of like the whole Spine tribe, and I think that's a good way to kind of like progress the plot. I mean, it's pretty interesting to see more, and obviously like captures Raya a bit at first and doesn't really trust her with like the orb piece there at first, but obviously it does end up kind of getting to the point Namari's kind of there. She tries to hold off Namari, and Namari's like having a good fight with him, and then they kind of get to the point where Sisu ended up like turning back into a dragon form and saving Ryan. It's just a really kind of like powerful moment of it, as that's like the dramatic reveal to like the characters. Really, I mean, it just really is the first time any of the characters besides Ryan really saw that, and it's just a really good way to like kind of reveal it just in that moment, as it really just shows how much she's really kind of cares about Raya, like trusts her to like to the point where you even do that just to save her. I mean, it's just a good way to move the plot along, and then obviously Tong kind of gives the orb piece from Spine, and it's just a really good way to like move the plot along as it progresses more and adds more attempts to it, and it's just a good way to do it. And it kind of breaks in the third act of it. I mean, and you can see that they're coming up with a plan. Boon and both Sisu have one that they don't first really want to do one for Sisu's, but Sisu they kind of like goes up and shows it and convinces them that they need to trust each other, and that's why they end up going with her plan. And it's just actually a pretty smart way to do it, as it kind of like shows more progression of trust throughout. Again, really kind of bringing out the message a bit more, and it just really works out very well for specifically that scene. And then you kind of like get into the climax. I mean, you got Namari and Raya kind of like having a showdown while everyone else is holding off the drone and thing. It's just a really like intense kind of way to build up the climax there, and essentially obviously you got Raya defeat Namari. Then they kind of like, it's a good way they kind of do it, as Namari like gets spared because Raya is eventually trusting because the way she's saying it, she just really convincing Ryan, and then they kind of like go together, like one by one, to like go out the drone as Namari like kind of joined them, and then they like just trust each other as one by one they kind of give orb pieces to Namari as they turn the stone, and Namari ends up being the one that ends up saving, which is actually a really good way to really solve the climax. Really, I mean, it's just a good way, like really have it. I mean, as the redeeming antagonist of the movie, Namari is a good way, a good example of that type of character, and they do a really good job with that. And I just really kind of like how they like solve the climax, and then you kind of the ending of the movie, which is they kind of like, it shows that they're all reunited now, and Kamandra is now one again, and it's just a really good way to end the movie, really like showing Denji's thing. Engine has come to life as Kamandra is now together again, and it's just a really powerful ending and really sends the message of the movie. Raya is a really good character. I really like the way they kind of like make her progress over time. I mean, at first, you can kind of see her, and she's not really trusting Namari after like the first time, but like over time, she kind of like learns that you kind of have to trust her, and it does end up trusting her and end up paying off in the end. It's just a really good like, progression of a character. Just really, they kind of showing how she's trusting more just to get it's her father's dream to come back of Commander, and it's just a really good way to kind of like do it, because that's what she really motivates her to like want to get all these ore pieces, and she just really kind of like plays character in a way and just really progresses as the movie goes, and just is a really interesting kind of character. Jisoo is a really good character. At first, kind of seemed like it might be just a kind of like a annoying character at first, but like really, there's a lot more to her character. Just she's really just the kind of one like to send out the message to everyone that you really need to trust each other, as she really does have like that whole backstory, really showing how all her brothers and sisters trust her, and it's just a really good way to like kind of prove on the message and just really show her character, and just the way she kind of like helps Raya, and the way it just really helps out more, and it's just really just how she's kind of one character, like giving people gifts and trusting people, just really makes her like a kind of good kind of character. I mean, it just really makes her like that good person, and just overall like really just kind of makes her like the complex character that she is. Just really moving the message across, which is like the whole point of her character. There's Boon and Tong, which I'm gonna kind of like tie together, because like there's Boon like kind of has this ship that he's on, and he kind of serves food, and it's like just on there as because all of his parents like kind of taken away from the drone. And then there's also Tong, who is a very kind of like similar character. I mean, very last remaining member of the Spine tribe because of that, of the drone. And it's just really interesting how much they are kind of like similar in characters, and I just really like how you kind of like do their characters. I mean, it gets you like to more kind of like feel for them more, and just really just kind of like want them to succeed more, really. And it's just really glad that how they did that with their characters. Boon and Tom both end up helping Raya the whole journey, and just really just good characters for that as well. And there's Namari, who's basically the antagonist that redeems herself, and I do think that they do a good job with that. I mean, at first it really just kind of like shows her, like, you can definitely see she's very villainous right away. I mean, she told everyone about the orb, and it causes the whole plot to really kick off, really, and then she like just is absolutely obsessed with Raya. It seems like that she's just going after her, trying to stop her with all this, and it just really shows like how like willing she's to really like stop Raya at first, but over time she definitely does progress. And when Sisu was revealed, and just like kind of like showing how she's like that, and it just really like brought her character out a bit more, to like trust each other more, and obviously, and then she kind of like redeemed and ends up like bringing her character arc to an end when she is the whole reason why they are back united, and like the Drunist. I really like how they end up doing that. It brings her character arc to an end, and it just really is a good way to do it, as it basically redeems her as the redeemable antagonist, and it also brings her whole character arc to an end. Voice acting is really good. Kelly Marie Tran really sounded confident in her role as Raya, just really is into it, and it's definitely, you can see that she wants to be there just with how confident her line delivery is. She just really just wants to be there, and just really feels like she's into the character. And then there's also like Isaac Wong, who did a pretty good job for like the kind of kid character, and mostly does a good job for that. It's definitely is better than usual. And then there's also Benedict Wong, who played Tong and did a really good job with it. And there's Gemma Chan, who played Namari, did a pretty good job with as Namari is really feeling confident in each and every one of the line deliveries, no matter what the mood that Namari was supposed to be in. She really felt like the character no matter what, and did an overall great job in the role. The animation is really good. Just the whole character designs on each human just looks really good and complete, and very smooth when they're moving, and just it's really good, especially Raya's design, and as well as Namari's design, and like all the human designs in general, to be honest, look really good. I mean, I think they did a good job with that, really making the animation look smooth and complete with each character as a human. Same thing with Sisu. I really liked the looks of Sisu as the dragon form, and it's really looks pretty creative for a dragon. I just really like the looks of it, and just how like it's kind of like blue and colorful, and just really works. And the backgrounds are really good, just really kind of colorful, and also just the kind of like looks of every single town, like spine, tail. It really feels like what they're supposed to be, and just really works for what they're doing with the animation there. The score is really good. They do a good job and like making it feel intense whenever like Raya and Namari would fight each other. They really like bring up the intensity, and the score is really making you feel more into it. And I definitely feel like time they can like the score, it really fits the background, the whole song, this whole like scene, and just really gets you more into the scene, and really just makes you feel like you're kind of more into it. That said, I do have one like very small negative. Probably I do feel like the whole thing where like Namari and like Raya like end up accidentally being responsible for like killing Sisu. Especially Namari, they could have been executed a lot better. This guy like had like Namari like kind of like shoot a bow because Raya like threw her sword and like kind of just provoking it. And I feel like it could have been executed a lot better, especially since it seemed like they're gonna be together, but then they weren't, and then accidentally killed Jisoo. I mean, I just feel like that definitely could have been executed a bit better than what it was, and definitely could have been a bit of a better moment than it actually was. Overall, Raya and the Last Dragon is another fantastic Disney movie with a great message, and I'm gonna give Raya and the Last Dragon a 9.5 out of 10. That was my review of Raya and the Last Dragon. What are your thoughts on Raya and the Last Dragon? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.